Today, we will explore trust and global optimization in an intelligence field. Around us, growing numbers of AI agents, people, organizations, and systems are beginning to operate in connection with one another. Each makes decisions, takes action, and affects other actors and the surrounding environment. In such a world, making each individual actor more intelligent is not enough. How do these actors collaborate? And, as a whole, where does that collaboration lead? This brings us to the central question for this discussion. Can trust alone deliver global optimization? So, what do we mean here by an intelligence field? An intelligence field is not simply a place where multiple AI systems exist. It includes AI agents, people, organizations, systems, and knowledge. It is an environment in which actors with different knowledge, capabilities, goals, and authorities influence one another. AI agents analyze information, make recommendations, and take action. People set purposes, make judgments, and take responsibility. Organizations provide rules, roles, and resources. Systems connect data and business processes, and knowledge supports every judgment and action. What matters is that these elements do not flow in one direction. They interact with one another to form a single intelligence field. For collaboration to work in this environment, the participants must be able to trust one another. So where does trust come from? Trust is not simply goodwill or a vague sense of reassurance. Safe collaboration requires several layers. First comes identity. Who is the other party? Is it a person, an AI agent, or a representative of an organization? The actor must be identified with certainty. Next is capability. What can that actor do? What knowledge, functions, and experience does it have? Then comes authority. What an actor can do is not the same as what it is authorized to do. Within what scope may it make decisions? And within what scope may it take action? Identity, capability, and authority. Only when these three are clear can trust be established. With trust, work and decisions can be delegated. And when delegated actors understand one another's roles and boundaries, coordination becomes possible. Trust is the foundation of safe collaboration. But even when trust is in place, global optimization does not happen automatically. The ability to collaborate and the desirability of the outcome for the whole are different questions. Here, let us confirm the most important point of this discussion. Trust is not the same as global optimization. Trust supports our ability to determine with whom we can collaborate safely. We can identify the other party. We can understand its capabilities. We can verify the scope of its authority. Only then can we delegate and coordinate with confidence. These are necessary conditions for an intelligence field to function. But even when capable collaborators come together, trust alone does not determine where they should go. When actors have different objectives, they choose different actions. When they see different information, they make different judgments. An action that is correct locally may not be desirable for the whole. In other words, trust is a necessary condition for collaboration, but it is not a sufficient condition for global optimization. And this difference often appears in the different KPIs and objective functions pursued by each actor. So why does global optimization not arise automatically, even when trust exists? One reason is that each agent has a different objective function. For example, a sales agent seeks to maximize revenue. A manufacturing agent seeks to minimize cost. A finance agent seeks to minimize risk. A customer agent seeks to maximize customer satisfaction. None of these is a wrong objective. In fact, each is highly rational from the perspective of its own role. Growing revenue, reducing cost, avoiding risk, improving customer satisfaction. Each agent is trying to optimize correctly against the KPI assigned to it. But maximizing revenue does not always align with minimizing cost. And a decision that minimizes risk can reduce customer satisfaction or limit opportunities to pursue new challenges. In this way, what is best for each agent may be locally correct. Yet, the accumulation of local optima does not necessarily produce a global optimum. Let us now distinguish between a local optimum and a global optimum. A local optimum is the best state that each agent or department can reach under the conditions assigned to it. The optimum for sales, the optimum for manufacturing, the optimum for finance, the optimum for the customer. Each can reach the peak of its own mountain. But simply adding together the peaks of those mountains does not guarantee that we reach the highest mountain for the intelligence field as a whole. A global optimum is not the simple sum of the results achieved by individual agents. It is the outcome of understanding the trade-offs among multiple objectives and deciding what the whole should protect, prioritize, and permit. In other words, the sum of local optima is not the same as a global optimum. That is why we need more than simply connecting actors we can trust. We need to coordinate their objectives and actions. This is where coordination becomes essential. It bridges trust and optimization. As we have seen, trust and optimization are different issues. Trust answers the question, with whom can we collaborate? Can we trust the other party? What can it do? How much can we delegate to it? Trust creates the conditions for safe collaboration. Optimization, by contrast, answers the question, what are we trying to achieve? What should we prioritize as a whole? How should we balance revenue, cost, risk, and customer satisfaction? This is a question of goals, and what we need between these two is coordination. Coordination addresses how we align and adjust. Who sees which information, at what time, and how far may they act? When objectives conflict, who mediates, and by what criteria do they decide? Trust alone can enable collaboration, but it does not align goals. Optimization alone can define goals, but it does not align actual behavior. Trust, coordination, and optimization. Distinguishing these three while connecting them is fundamental to making an intelligence field function as a whole. But before we go further, there is one more question we need to decide. Who, exactly, is included in that whole? The phrase global optimization may sound clear at first, but the boundary of the whole being optimized is never just one thing. At the innermost level, there is a single agent. Next comes a team made up of multiple agents and people. Beyond that is the company as a whole. Outside the company is the supply chain, including business partners, logistics providers, and customers. Broaden the perspective further, and we reach the industry as a whole. And at the broadest level, there is society. What is optimal for an agent may not be optimal for a team. A decision that is efficient for a company may create burdens for the supply chain as a whole. Even industry growth may not always be desirable for society as a whole. As the boundary expands, the relationships we must consider, the values we must protect, and the meaning of optimal all change. So before thinking about global optimization, we must first ask, whose whole are we trying to optimize for? And when faced with this complexity, we may think that a single central AI could oversee everything and produce the optimal answer. This leads to the idea of placing a global optimization AI at the center. Sales, manufacturing, finance, customer, operations. It gathers information from each agent and department, allowing one AI to take in the whole picture. It then derives the global decision that is most desirable for the whole. At first glance, this is a very compelling design. Rather than allowing judgments to diverge locally, it seems to integrate them centrally and provide a consistent direction. But this model raises several questions. First, can the central AI truly possess all the information it needs? Centralizing information also creates issues of privacy and confidentiality. Next, who defines the values by which something is considered optimal? Revenue and safety, efficiency and fairness, short-term outcomes and long-term sustainability. These value trade-offs cannot simply be derived automatically from data. There is also the question of how much authority we should delegate to the central AI. Will its decisions be accepted by people on the ground and by the stakeholders involved? A central AI is a powerful option, but placing it at the center does not, by itself, solve the problem of global optimization. And even if it could calculate the best answer at a given moment, should that answer remain fixed while the environment continues to change? Let us reconsider how we view global optimization. Is global optimization a fixed answer that can be obtained once and for all through calculation? On the left is the conventional view of static optimization. First, we observe the situation. Next, we calculate the data. From there, we find the optimal solution. And then we execute. When conditions do not change significantly, this is an extremely powerful approach. But a real intelligence field is not a fixed world. Customer behavior changes. Markets and supply-demand conditions shift. The actions of agents themselves affect what happens next. As a result, simply continuing to execute an optimal solution found once will eventually create a gap between the solution and reality. That is where adaptation becomes necessary. Observe the world. Decide based on the situation at that moment. Act. Receive the results and learn from them. then observe again. Global optimization is not something we calculate once and finish. In a changing environment, it must be continually revised through observation, judgment, action, and learning. To do this, we need a mechanism that carries forward what was observed, why a decision was made, what was executed, and what results followed, into the next cycle of learning. Let us now expand the idea of global optimization into global adaptation. The goal is not to find one optimal answer and continue executing it indefinitely. Build collaboration on a foundation of trust. Use coordination to align the objectives and actions of collaborating actors. Then take action. Receive the results of that action as feedback, and use adaptation to improve the next decision. Sustaining this cycle is what a changing intelligence field requires. At the center of this cycle is the decision trace. A decision trace is not merely an audit log. It records who made which judgment, based on what information, and what they executed. By retaining the process and its results, it makes them reviewable afterward. Of course, this is important for accountability and governance. But it is more than that. Because a trace exists, we can revisit what happened as an observation. We can learn the relationship between decisions and outcomes, turning it into learning. A decision trace is not only for recording the past, it is the learning foundation that enables an intelligence field to adapt better the next time. But even for an intelligence field that keeps learning, another question remains. If we learn from and reuse only successful decisions, might we also lose the possibilities we do not yet know? Can an optimized intelligence field retain its creativity? As an intelligence field learns and repeatedly makes better decisions, options with a high probability of success tend to be selected more strongly over time. This is called exploitation. It means using knowledge with known results, methods with a proven track record, and highly reliable agents. It is extremely important for improving efficiency and reducing failure. But if exploitation becomes too strong, something else may be lost. That is exploration. Options whose outcomes are not yet known, new knowledge, perspectives and agents that have not been used before, and experiments that may appear inefficient today, yet hold potential for the future. As optimization increases, does exploration inevitably decline? As we continue choosing certain success, do we narrow the room for creativity and change? What an intelligence field needs is not to choose either exploitation or exploration. It is to preserve room to explore the unknown while continuing to create results. Next time, we will look more deeply at this tension between exploitation and exploration.